Hi, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the California Fire Science Seminar Series. My name is Ashkan Karimuri. I'm the chair of the student committee who assisted with planning this webinar series, and I will be your host for today. I'm a research scholar at Civil and Environmental Engineering Department of UC Davis. I hold my PhD in Industrial Engineering from Systems Optimization and Data Analytic Groups. My current work revolves around the interdisciplinary application of mathematical optimization and machine learning-based data-driven optimization. My current research is focusing on wildfire preparedness planning for optimal resource allocation, field treatment, vegetation management, and home hardening. The California Fire Science Seminar Series is organized and supported by the Berkeley Fire Research Group, College of Engineering, University of California, Berkeley, University of California, Merced, and the California Fire Science Consortium. Before I introduce today's speaker, I will go over a few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the California Fire Science Consortium website and YouTube channel. All registered participants will be emailed a link to this recording once it's available, generally within a week. This email will also include a brief evaluation survey we hope you will complete, as it helps guide the development of these webinars in the future. And now, without further ado, let me introduce our esteemed guest speaker, Dr. Ali Moghimi. Ali is an assistant professor of teaching in Department of Biological and Agricultural Engineering, where he is lead a faculty advisor for the Agricultural and Environmental Technology major. Ali teaches a wide range of courses, including Introduction to Drone Technology and Introduction to Geographical Information System, we call GIS. Ali was recently selected by the UC Davis Chancellor as one of the 3 highlighted faculty members who are positively impacting teaching on the UC Davis campus. Ali's research interests include remote sensing, GIS, and applied machine learning and deep learning. He is currently serving as a guest editor for the Journal of Electronics and Computers in Agriculture. So following Ali's presentation, there will be a question and answer section. Please feel free to add any questions you have to the Q&A chat throughout the presentation. And now please join me in welcoming Ali.
Thank you so much, Ashkan. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Katania, for having me, and thanks for the introduction, Ashkan. I appreciate. I'm so excited to share some of our preliminary results and some insight that we kind of have into these wildfire topics. I would like to set the expectations up front, and we are kind of started working on this topic recently, so there would be limited contributions, and so our goal was to kind of explore the wildfire topics and see the knowledge gaps and see how we can leverage our experience and the tools that we know how to work with them, and see if we can mitigate some of the concern of wildfire in California, which is I think one of the big topics and challenging topics. So I'm particularly interested to hear your thoughts and comments at the end of the presentation, and explore kind of collaboration, how we can collaborate together and dive into research questions, formulate research questions, and deepen our understanding in the field of wildfire. Okay, so let's get it started. So based on my conversation with the host, seems that we have a wide range of audiences today, but almost all of you know the importance of research in wildfire area, because it has severe adverse impacts on various aspects of life, economy, and environment across the state, and also globally. Some of the countries and they're kind of dealing with these issues. And so I'm going to kind of skip quickly over these slides because I think that we all kind of on the same page, and we acknowledge that the importance of research, fundamental research, and to kind of better understand wildfires and the driving factors, for example, and how we can mitigate those concepts. But just wanted to show you some kind of data to highlight two things. From this slide, what I would like to highlight is first is the spatial variation that we have when it comes to wildfire across only one state, which is California. And so this is data from 2020, where we when we had one of the largest and the most destructive wildfire in the history of California. And so on the top graph, so you could kind of see that the number of wildfires. So in 2020, it was one of the top, but not the big one. But when it comes to the acreage on the lower graph, so you could see that we had more than 4 million acres that was burned by wildfire. So two things: one is spatial variation, and the other one is the temporal variation component of wildfire. So it makes it difficult to kind of be prepared and plan in advance. And so that's something that I guess if we can have a better understanding, it would really help all the stakeholders and people that are involved, from policymakers all the way to fire department, to better manage and control wildfires. So in general, like I said, we are at the very early stage. And again, I would like to emphasize that. But our goal is to harness the power of geospatial intelligence, AI, GIS, and remote sensing. These are like the domains that we would like to explore and see how we can use them to kind of promote our understanding of wildfire. What are the driving factors, how it's going to expand it, and how we can control and manage it in a more efficient way, and minimize the adverse impacts on our environment and our human life and our economy. So in this presentation, I will present a framework that we work on to, this is the AI-enabled framework that we develop in order to see if we can kind of detect wildfire, active wildfire, using satellite imagery, in particular Sentinel-2. I'm going to explain all of those in details in a few minutes. But yeah, so this is our general picture, general overall goal that we are pursuing, and what we are at the beginning of our journey. So the data sets that we started to explore, so we started downloading data, satellite data, from 2017 to 2022. But what we realized is that it seems that in 2020 we had one of the largest wildfire that it kind of captured, especially like the August complex, captured 7 counties, more than 1 million acres. And so my students and I were talking, said, okay, let's kind of explore this area and then see if we can generalize an algorithm to across different years. As I said, we have variability across a time and also space, and we wanted to kind of target one date that we had tremendous amount of wildfire, and then see if we can kind of develop a model and see if we can generalize it and do the detection at larger scale in different time and different space. So the data is images that we downloaded. These are like Sentinel-2 images. So Sentinel-2 is a multi-spectral satellite that captured spectral images in 13 bands. From near-infrared to visible to near-infrared and shortwave, with different range of spatial resolution, 10 meter, 20 meter, and 60 meter. And then, but the swath of each image is about 290 kilometers, so which is a really good swath for this type of application. The temporal resolution, which means that how many days it takes for the satellite to visit one area, is 10 days. But since we have 2 satellites, So the temporal resolutions actually can be 5 days. So every 5 days, we can have one image from the same location on the Earth. And so the other nice thing about Sentinel-2 is that the data is available for public. It's open source. So that makes it easier for researchers to explore different topics that they are more interested in. So in terms of resolution, like I said, we have different range of resolution, 10 meter, 20 meter, and 60 meter. And you could see that for what bands we have 10 meter, and for what bands we have 20 meter. And when we say spatial resolution, we are referring to the pixel size, which means that so each pixel is 10 meter by 10 meter. And and that is the case for mostly the visible bands, as you could see here, 490. Which is blue band, 560, which is green band, and then 665, which is red band. And also we have one band in near infrared, which gives us 10 meter. And then so we have a 20 meter spatial resolution for few bands, especially in near infrared, and then 2 in shortwave infrared. And then the 60 meter resolution is, again, as you could kind of see, we have one in blue, and then one in 940, which is related to water, and then the other one, band 10, which is it is used for atmospheric correction. So that's why, I mean, the resolution could be a little bit larger, and that's okay. So if you're familiar with Landsat, and because this is the most commonly used satellite, so here in this slide you can kind of see where the spectral bands located for Sentinel-2. So here for Sentinel-2, you can see on the top, and then on the second row, we have it for Landsat 8. And so Landsat 7 is a little bit old now, but for Landsat 8, you can kind of see that very hard. The difference is that for Sentinel, we don't have this thermal area. So basically, it's again in multispectral bands in visible, near infrared, and shortwave. So to download the data, we use Google Earth Engine. So that is a cloud-based platform offered by Google for geospatial analysis, for visualization of geospatial data. And so in this case, we wanted to download images. So in order to know what images we want to download, so we made query based on the date and location, basically based on these two. So we downloaded data from California Fire Department. I think that they do a decent job in providing data, a lot of good data sets for exploring and research. So the data that we downloaded is shapefile point, and so latitude, longitude of the fire location, and also what date it was. So we had those two, so we could make a query. And going through all the databases of images, we found the best day that was close to that day, after that day. And also we filter some of the images if there was like a severe cloud coverage, so we couldn't see what is on the Earth, so we could kind of ignore those images. But our main two parameters was date and location. And when I say cloud coverage, this is a good example. You can see that this on the left side, this is an image that we have a severe cloud coverage, but we could kind of find another image that was captured a few days later with almost no cloud coverage or minimum cloud coverage, so that we could kind of use it for our problem. So this is the way that we download data, and the data was downloaded for all the bands, all the 12 bands, and then we name it with the sensor, which is Sentinel-2 at the location, and then the date. And the reason that we use this type of naming is that if you wanted to go back and make query based on the location and based on the date, so we could kind of parse out and find the images more quickly. But we download the data. But we wanted to, so I will explain it, but for the deep learning part, we wanted to have 3 bands, so we downloaded 12 bands, but we just wanted to know, okay, if you wanted to only pick 3 bands, what would be those bands? So we did some study, and we realized that people say that, okay, band 11 and 12 and band 4, which these two are the short wave, and then band 4 is the red band. These are recommended in literature. And then the reason that they recommend is that, so these two are shortwave, which means that they are less impacted by smoke particles. Because as you could see here, I intentionally put these two slides. So I hope that, yeah, here, so you could see that because of the smoke, we can't see exactly what is under the smoke. Because most of the visible light is scattered and absorbed and diffused. But shortwave, because they'll have a longer wavelength, they could kind of go and penetrate through that, and then you could kind of see better what is underneath of that. And then band 4, which is the red band, it kind of is basically more for visualization. As you can see, there is not a lot of difference between band 4 and the other visible and near-infrared part. So again, these two are important because they are short wave, and also we see that the reflectance in these two are higher. So as you can see here, the same image, this is visible, and then the true bands are red, green, and blue. So a lot of smoke. But if we use false color, we use these 3 spectral bands to make a false color, we could kind of see what's under the smoke. So that could be great help for the algorithm and for us to annotate the data. So when it comes to deep learning part, so yes, we have the data, and so we have the images, and so we wanted to know, okay, what type of machine learning or deep learning algorithms is better to use. Just a quick overview. So we could, we have different machine learning or deep learning algorithms, and so we could use them for object detection. So in this example, see that you could kind of have the algorithm put a bounding box around certain objects. You need to train. It can be fruit, it can be cats, dogs, or in this case, a human. So that is an object detection. So the other thing that we can do is to do semantic segmentation, which is basically classifying pixels at the pixel level, say that, okay, these pixels kind of represent person, and then the rest are background in this case. And then we can even go one step further and say that in which is instance segmentation, we kind of do classification at the pixel level, but also do, okay, so these are for 1%, and this is the name of the person, and then just do it 1% and 1%. If I want to give you an example in remote sensing, for example, it would be detecting, just put the bounding box around trees. So this is kind of a tree detection, or segmenting the canopy. That would be semantic segmentation. And instance segmentation is to segment the canopy and also know, okay, what type of tree we are looking at. So that would be instance segmentation. In our case, at this stage, at least we are interested in semantic segmentation. So for example, if this is our input image, you want to do semantic segmentation and say that, okay, these pixels, we have active fire in this area. And since these images are geo-rectified, so when we say pixel, we know exactly where on the earth that pixel is located. So we know where that wildfire is happening now. So we have a wide range of algorithms that we could start, but we decided to use Unet. And the reason is that Unet is fast, and then so we just wanted to use a GPU of Google Cloud. We didn't have a lot of resources, so Unet is fast and precise when it comes to segmentation. And the other advantages of Unet is that it is designed to handle low annotated data sets. So because one of the bottleneck when it comes to remote sensing is to annotate the data. Or what I mean by annotation is that when you want to train a model, you want to say, okay, this is the input image, this is the output image, this is what I expect you to predict in future. But if you want to go supervised, learning, which is in this case is a supervised, then we need to provide some sort of output and annotation. So the model learns how to map from input to output. And then that annotation could be really time consuming. So let's say that we have, our students kind of work on annotating, okay, this area in this image, we have wildfire, this area we don't have. So it could be a lot of manual work. And so, but Unet can handle and give us reasonable accuracy with minimum number of annotation samples. So originally, a Unet was proposed for medical image segmentation. As you can see, this is the original Unet. So it was proposed in 2015, and now I think it has about probably 80,000 citation. It has been used a lot in different domains, including remote sensing. So to just give you a kind of overview of what it is, so here we have an input image, and so the input image in this case, this is the size of image. It's at 256 by 256 pixels, rows and columns, and then it's a one band image. It's a grayscale image, and then so we have a symmetrical architecture here. So this part is called encoder. That contraction happens, and then this part is called decoder, where kind of expanding part of the network. And so the network in the encoding part, the network learns features and also capture context. And then when it comes to the decoding part, the network tries to do precise localization. And one of the unique advantages of Unet is that, as you can see, we have some connection between encoder part and decoder part, and those are called the skip connection. And in order to help the algorithm recover those spatial information, because if you don't have those skip connection, some of the spatial information will be lost. You can see that here we have a 32 by 32 image. We started from 256 by 256. Here we have 32 by 32, and then the depth is 448. And so we have more features on the Z direction, but the size of the image is low. So obviously we lose some spatial information. In order to help the algorithm expand and then again recover some of those spatial information, we concatenate from encoding part to decoding part. And so the idea is, okay, this is the input, this is the output, and then the model learns how to map. And then when we say the model, we are referring to weights. So, or let's say coefficient. So we have millions of weights here that the model needs to kind of tune and find what is the best value for it. To just give you a simple example, let's say we have a linear regression. And so in linear regression, let's say we have some data, we want to feed the model. Our weights would be what is the coefficient and then what is bias. So we have two. And so in this case, we have millions of those coefficients, mostly in a convolutional way, and we wanted to kind of find the optimal way. So the algorithm goes through some optimization and try to find the best parameters, the best way that minimize the cost function that we define. So in this case, it would be, okay, we want to minimize the errors that we have when it comes to detecting wildfire. Just as again an example that how it can be used in other domains. So that was originally in biomedical. So in this example, it was used for tree segmentation, and you could see that you could kind of modify different components in Unet and kind of play with it. So here we have like an RGB image, and so originally it was like for one band, but you could kind of do it with 3 band. So anyway, so here there are a few things that I would like you to pay attention. One is that so we need some sort of output. We need some sort of data or annotated data. So if we wanted the algorithm learn to, for example, if this part is wildfire, to give us such an output, we need to first train the model, and we need those annotation images. The second thing is that we wanted to use 3 bands only. So we have like 12 bands originally. We picked 3, and so we need to kind of develop a way to just pick those 3 bands. And then lastly, the size of the images is usually 256 by 256. But we have a large images, the Sentinel-2s. So we had to kind of create some patches, 256 by 256, so to be able to feed those images into our model. So we did all of those in Python in Google Colab. So we only downloaded 50 satellite images, so large data set. And the idea was, the first thing was to go from 12 bands to 3 bands, the 3 bands that we selected, from TIFF file to PNG file. And then, so here also, like as I mentioned, we wanted to have the input size of images ideally should be 256 or kind of power of 2s, 128, 256, or 512. We decided to go with 256. And so in order to do that, so if you cannot feed square 256 by 256 images and create patches, we do 0 padding, which means that we added some zeros to be able to kind of have something like this. So in this case, we have 7 by 7 patches extracted from our images. And so each of them now is, we have 256 by 256, and in the Z direction we have 3 bands, so 2 short wave and then 1 red band. So that is somehow our input data is somehow ready. And so now we need to focus on how we want to annotate the data. So we use Label Studio, and then again, this is like a manual work. So you need to import the image into Label Studio and then brush, okay, this area we have Wildfire, and then go to the next image. Again, do the same thing. Could be, you have to zoom in and be careful about how you do annotation, because the performance of the model relies on how accurate and how much time you spend on annotation. To give you an example, this is like an input image. This is the output image, or the part that you kind of annotate. So this is technically a binary mask, which so it's 0 except the pixels that represent Wildfire, which those are 1. And so we have a binary 0, 1. And so if the algorithm can kind of gives us such a output, then it would be just multiplying this mask onto the input image, and then everything would be 0, because if multiplied pixel-wise, any values multiplied by 0 would be 0. And then only Wildfire area, those active Wildfire pixels representing fire, would be able to pass through the mask. And so because they multiplied by 1, and so that is the idea. So we wanted to find it. We want to develop a model that kind of get these as an input and get something like this as an output. So we did that for all the input and output images. Again, we created some patches, 256 by 256. So we had 50 images, and so in total, each of them returned us 49 patches. So in total, we had more than 2,400 images now, small images that we wanted to use them as the input. So Unet, as I said, it is capable of handling low number of annotation, low number of samples, but we realized that based on our result, we realized that this is not enough. So one of the technique that you can use is data augmentation. So let's say this is the original image. So you can kind of rotate the image 90 degrees and use that as, again, add it to your input, or you can do it 180 to 270, or flip it vertically and horizontally. It's like a mirror type of things. And then, so the idea is that the algorithm, so first we create more data sets. Since we already annotated, we can do the same augmentation on our mask. So we can easily expand our data. And the other thing is that, so the algorithm would kind of learn different types of patterns and shapes. So as you could kind of see that we have different types of shapes. We introduce different types of shape into our algorithm. So what we did, we kind of randomly select only 2 of these data augmentation methods and apply them. So in total, we have two augmentation and one original data set. So we had about 7,300 images. So this is now a good data set. So what we did, we divided the data sets into three categories: training data, validation data, and test data. So the idea is that you train your model on these data sets. And then once you're training, you see that all of those weights, 1 million weights, needs to be updated at each iteration. We test the performance of the model on this validation. And then once the model is fully trained and we are happy with the performance, we test the performance on an unseen data set that we set aside and see what would be the performance of the model. And so we use Unet, but the architecture that we use, it was originally proposed by these scientists and was published in Journal of Photogrammetry and Remote Sensing in 2021. And so we adopted their network and see if we can use their network. And here you could see the result. So our accuracy was 98. And so you could see after a few iterations for both validation and training data, we got fairly good result, and then we got plateau. But we try to continue and see if there's any performance better, or it would drops, or if it plateau. So our F1 score was about 53, and so you could see. So F1 score is a harmonic mean between precision and recall, kind of type 1 and type 2 errors, if you will. And so that is our result. For future work, like I said, this is like just an effort to get into this domain. But in future, we would like to kind of focus on two main things. One would be, creating susceptibility map and see, we have the data that wildfire happens in this state, in that location across some years. And so we wanted to see what are the driving factors, because it seems that the driving factors also varies across the space. So for some area, vegetation, fuel, and evapotranspiration might be a driving factor, and some areas might be other factors like a slope and aspect and V. So we wanted to see if we can kind of better understand those things. And the other thing that we would like to do is to see if we can kind of quantify, okay, this is active area, this is burn area, this is a smoke, and the dynamic of a smoke, and where it's heading, to kind of provide all of those information. And then lastly, I would like to thank my PhD student, Mohammad Reza Narimani. So this is not a funded project. So again, this is like a 2 or 3 months effort that we just put together these things. And so we are trying to submit some grants and see if we can kind of secure some funding for future research. And by that, I would like to thank everyone for your attention, and so open the floor for comments and questions. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. It was really, pointful and fascinating. I will skip my questions because we can do it in person. But thank you again, Ali. Thank you for this fascinating presentation. We will not open it up to for question and answer. Post can continue to submit a question in chat, and we will ask Ali to address them. Due to time constraints and high attendance, we kindly ask that all questions be submitted through just by Q&A chat. And regrettably, we will not be able to accommodate unmuting individuals during this session. If we are unable to get to all questions, we will forward additional questions to Ali's and send answer or a follow-up email. Let's start with the first question. How many images were hand annotated? And I'm curious if we can chart this data against weather conditions as they occurred on the day in order to predict spread.
So the first part, how many images were annotated? So we annotated, 50 images, which are large images, and so we annotate those 50 images, and so 50 multiplied by 49 is 240, 2,450 images, patches, 256. So this is what we annotated first, and then we use augmentation, and so we got more than 7,000 images. What was the second part? Sorry.
I'm curious if we can chart this data against weather conditions as they occurred on the day in order to predict the spread.
So I think the question is if we can kind of augment some data about the weather and see if the performance would get better. I think that there are so many other things that we would like to do, and so this is just the beginning. So it would be weather data, what would be the wind condition in a kind of temporal manner, because what happens before wildfire incident happens. So what was the history of the rain? What was the wind? What was the evapotranspiration of the vegetation in the, for example, 1 week or 2 weeks before wildfire happened? So definitely temperature data and anything related to moisture, they are all driving factors. And so in future, like I said, we would like to create susceptibility map, and those are like all the factors that we would like to explore and see which of them play. They're more informative and they play more role.
Thank you. The second question is, do you see the role of the geosync data playing a role here? How about the terrestrial cams to improve detection?
So yeah, terrestrial also, as I explained, the slope and then the aspect, is it facing north, facing south, and so these are all can be great factors that we need to kind of study more and see. What I found, and based on some my kind of limited knowledge in this domain, is that the wildfire that happens in California might be different from the one that happens in Chile or in Canada or in other even states. And so there are some common factors, but we have to study and see that what is the main cause. Even within California, there might be some areas that the fire might behave differently. So this is something that at least I'm not aware of, and so I think that it seems that there's kind of a room to study more and understand each of these factors.
Thank you. The third question is, I'm wondering whether the refraction through atmosphere will introduce significant errors to the satellite observation comparing to actual location of the fire lines. If so, do you have any suggestion to correct these kind of errors?
Yes. So what we did is we kind of filter out the images that we have severe cloud coverage, like the one that I showed you. And so Sentinel-2 has one band, I think it's band 10, with 60-meter resolution. That is used for atmospheric correction. So it gives you top of the atmosphere reflectance or radiance. So radiometric calibrated with kind of compensating what we have as the atmosphere. So that could kind of mitigate some of the concern that we have. For wildfire detection, I think for any type of detection, when you use deep learning, so your focus is not 100% on pixel values. So it's different from, for example, if you wanted to do evapotranspiration, if you want to predict yield in agriculture, because that in that case you wanted to study spectral response, and we want to be accurate because that spectral response is a function of whatever happened in the plant, or in this case fire. But if it is detection, you see that the color is different, the texture is different. We consider pixel with relative to the other pixels around them. So if the pixel values is slightly changed because of atmosphere, so it should be okay when it comes to detection. But if you wanted to dive in more, and again focusing on focusing, for example, on what the smoke, for example, and kind of try to quantify what particles we have. So that's where you need to be very accurate. You need to minimize the impact of atmosphere. So to make it short, it depends on the problem. So in this case, less impact, but in some cases, you need to take it more serious.
Thank you. I think maybe just we can have just one more question because of the time limitation. How would the temporal resolution every 5 days of essential to affect detecting and monitoring wildfire? How about using other satellite data?
Yeah, that's a really good question because temporal resolution is 5 days. So we have other satellite like MODIS. Actually, we have MODIS has products for wildfire detection, and then the temporal resolution is 1 day. So that would be great. The problem with MODIS is that the spatial resolution is 1 kilometer, I believe, 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer. At least the Wildfire product is one kilometer by 1. So our goal was to start in Sentinel and see if we can map from Sentinel to MODIS. Use super resolution. This is another hot topic in deep learning, and see if we can kind of use Sentinel images with MODIS. And so we have high resolution images in Sentinel, and then very high temporal resolution MODIS. But we lose the spatial resolution. But if we can integrate, see if we can do a better job, and then kind of have it in between. So daily, we have daily data with a good resolution for wildfire detection. That's a good question.
Yeah, thank you, Ali. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Yeah.
And invitation. It was really fascinating for me. As we wrap up today's session, I want to thank all of you for joining us. Special thank again to Dr. Ali Moghimi for a enlightening presentation. Remember, our next session is scheduled for March 5th, where we will be hosting Dave Falcon. Dave is an economics and research forester with the U.S. Forest Service. We will be discussing the role of economics in wildfire risk management. Before we sign up, please keep an eye out for the webinar evolution that will be emailed out this week. Thank you once again, and I look forward to seeing you in our future sessions. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'd be happy to take questions via email. Bye-bye. Thanks for having me.